Malala Yousafzai, the girl who stood up for education. Who is Malala? Malala is currently 16, born on July 12, 1997. Malala lived in Mingora Swat Valley, Pakistan with her two brothers, Kushal and Adil, her mother, Torpeke, and father, Ziauddin Yousafzai. Malala is an education, women's rights, and children's activist. She believes that every child should have an education. She loves school, and that's all she ever wanted. This is Swat Valley in Pakistan, and in the red dot is Mingora, where they lived. From the right is Kushal, Ziauddin, Malala, Adil, and then Torpeke. Who are the Taliban? The Pakistani Taliban is a group of militants that fight in opposition to the Pakistani military. They formed in 2007. The leader was Fazlullah. He ordered that the girls could not attend school and that the Pakistani Taliban would attack Malala. What have they done? In 2009, the Taliban announced through radio stations that the girls could not go to school. They bombed girls' school buildings and killed activists. Girls would go to school in their home dresses and hide books inside of their shawls to act like they weren't a student. The month of Ramadan 2008. Ramadan is when they cannot drink or eat during the day. The Taliban bombed the pipeline and power station. Therefore, Swat Valley had no clean water or electricity. They bombed buildings. They would kill citizens and leave them in the square during the night and leave notes saying, "Do not touch this body until 11 a.m. or you will be next." This is the areas where the Taliban are found in the darker browns. This is a school bombing in Pakistan by the Taliban. Ziauddin Yousafzai. He owned a school called Kushal Public School for 800 boys and girls. Ziauddin believed in educational rights for every child. He was also an education activist. He received death threats from the Taliban and even his friends were shot. Ziauddin and his friends formed a group that promoted peace and education and helped the environment. Malala first took action in 2009. She wrote a diary called Diary of a Pakistani Schoolgirl. She sent the diary to BBC Urdu, but signed her name as Gul Mackay for protection. Malala and Hay Kakar, a BBC radio correspondent, would write about her day and dreams. Her diaries would go on the Urdu website once every week. Later, everybody knew that Malala was writing the diary. On October 9th, 2012, at lunchtime, Malala and her friend Shazia Ramzan and Kainat Riaz were riding in the Dyna, an open-back van that the students took to school and home. A member of the Taliban stopped the bus and came around to the back of the bus and demanded, "Who is Malala?" Malala and her two friends were then fired at. Shazia got hit in her hand and collarbone, Kainat was hit in the arm, and Malala in the left side of her brain. Recovery and surgery. Malala and Shazia and Kainat were rushed to the Swat Central Hospital. Malala had to be moved again to Lady Reading Hospital in Peshawar by an army helicopter. Instead, they took her to a combined military hospital in the intensive care unit. The CAT scan showed that the bullet skimmed by her brain and the bullet was now lying in her left shoulder blade. On the left is Kainat Riaz and on the right is Shazia Ramzan. On the left is the Dyna they were riding, and on the right is Malala in the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. Junaid did surgery to remove part of her skull so there was room for the brain to expand. The Taliban confirmed they shot Malala, but just because of her fight for education. 2 days later, she was put into an induced coma. Her face and body swelled, her kidneys and lungs started failing. Dr. Fiona came and said Malala had to be moved to the hospital, Armed Forces Institute of Cardiology in Rawalpindi. She said Malala has a possibility of a speech obstruction and a weak right leg and arm. Hospitals all over wanted to help treat Malala, but they decided Malala will be moved again to the Queen Elizabeth Hospital along with Dr. Fiona on October 15th. Malala was very confused when she was awake, as her family was not there due to no passports, and couldn't quite remember what happened. She couldn't speak, so she wrote in a book. Anwen White did titanium cardioplasty to replace where Malala was missing her skull. Mr. Irving repaired her nerve and did cochlear implant. Malala recovered and began school in Birmingham in April. Prime Minister of Britain Gordon Brown started a petition, I Am Malala, so that by 2015 all children will be granted access to school. On Malala's 16th birthday, she spoke at United Nations in New York. She talked about child labor, poverty, terrorism, and education in front of 400 people. 5.1 million children are unable to attend school, and 50 million adults who are unable to read or write. 2/3 are women. Malala is the youngest person to be nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. Malala has won Pakistan's National Youth Peace Prize, Teenager of Courage, UN Human Rights Prize, and more. July 12th is Malala. The Malala Fund and Malala. The Malala Fund helps get girls an education at school and inspire girls to raise their voice. They are currently taking action to free the 200 kidnapped Nigerian schoolgirls. On April 17th, the Malala Fund, Free the Children, and celebrities took 24 hours and stood silently for girls' education where education first. I always dream of a world where I see every child, girl or boy, holding books in his or her hands, wearing school uniform and going to school. I will struggle to make this today's dream, tomorrow's reality. I always believe that even one book, one pen, one child, one teacher can change the world. Malala Yousafzai.